What a beautiful day for a hike. Today's question is, what do marimba ensembles have to do with cultures of learning, high performance, and the author Daniel Coyle, who wrote the books The Talent Code and The Culture Code? Specifically, I'd like to cover the following, which is building a healthy, high engagement culture of learning. Also, you know how incredible 9 to 11-year-old brains are? And 3, how you can totally BS a proposal if you're passionate enough about it and you're willing to see it through. The playlist that you're going to see in the liner notes of this podcast, you can go to Spotify or iTunes and you can see the master mixtape for this. The playlist is going to be live recordings of these student ensembles, which were recorded sometime between 2005 and 2007. But first, where are we hiking today? And by we, I mean my mom is with me today. She's back there on the hike somewhere. Hey, quick audio edit. That noise that you hear in the background is not distortion or white noise. That's the beautiful sounds of a rushing river coming from the glaciers of, I want to say Cayambe. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So it's going to get louder as I cross over a bridge and go over the river, and then it will dissipate as I go farther along on the hike. We are outside of Pappallacta. Pappallacta is, let's see, elevation, altimeter says around 3,300 meters. That's 10,800 feet. Pappallacta is part of the Andes Mountains, but it's right, kind of like a natural bridge that is the point where the Andean region and the Amazon region meet. So if I go back to Quito, I'm more in the Andean region, and from here, if I keep going east, I'll be going down into the Amazon River basin. It makes the topography of the hike super interesting because while we're in a high altitude environment, it doesn't always feel like that. I mean, there's a lot of precipitation here, but there's just a lot of vegetation. The soil is maybe spongy, damp. You have to be careful you don't slip, but there's just plants and trees everywhere. A lot of birds around here. Just passed by a little rabbit. A lot of cultivation happens here. It's just an amazing, amazing region. Definitely highly recommended if you're ever there. The word Pappallacta, by the way, another Quechua word, Yacta, I believe means, I think it's either land or area or village, and Papa obviously being potato from Quechua Spanish there. So land of potatoes, potato town, Hot Springs Potato Town, one of those. But it's a beautiful area, and curiously not too far from for those visiting from the airport. It's a very common place for day trips, etc. And just so fun. The energy here is amazing. So let's set the stage for the story. The year is 2004, the end of 2004. I am at Sunrise Drive Elementary School, which is in the Catalina Foothill School District in Tucson, Arizona. This puts me between Ecuador 1.0 and Ecuador 2.0, and the 3 years that I spent there. The school, wonderful school. I mentioned some of it in the first episode. Great colleagues, wonderful kids, of course. And when I had arrived, after the first, week of school, there was that typical meeting where you're asked if there's anybody that would be interested in extracurricular activities and has a proposal to do something. And I had one, and I wrote out a proposal for a marimba ensemble. And when I had to meet with the principal, she was like, tell me about, this is a new one. What do you mean a marimba ensemble? You have experience in marimba ensembles. So here we go. And me going, I've experience in music education. And you think that this would be a great activity for the kids? Oh, 100%. and you think that this would be something that they would enjoy and be engaged in, absolutely. What will the learning objectives be? Well, there'll be a lot of high collaboration work. They'll be playing in a musical ensemble. And hey, it's my mom. Hi, Mom.
Hi.
There will definitely be a lot of real-time problem solving, a lot of creativity. And as a performance ensemble, our objective eventually will be to be able to demonstrate our learning in an outside campus. Yeah, so at this point, I had sold the idea of this extracurricular activity and then faced with the idea of, okay, do I actually know what I'm talking about and doing? And contextually, yes, I know my music education. I felt comfortable pedagogically in getting this group, and I was very excited about doing it, but no, I had never actually done this before. I wouldn't say I'm a high-level skilled percussionist or marimba expert, but hey, I knew that this could be an exciting activity. What had happened is I had gone to a conference a year ago, previously to that. And at this educators conference, there was a presenter by the name of Walt Hampton. Walt Hampton had gone to Africa and listened to the Shona culture, which is in the country of Zimbabwe, and came up with this concept of that this could be taught in schools and could be part of the musical curricular experience. And I was floored. It was amazing. Whether hearing students and checking out his books, I mean, after maybe the second page, I was thinking to myself, man, this is pretty high level technical material. How do 9 to 11-year-olds do this? But I trusted in what he said, and I was just so excited about it. So step one, if you're excited about it, it is going to happen. And I opened that up for the club, for the students. I had a couple adventurous students kind of peek in there and say, what is this? And they joined. And what happened after that was amazing. To this day, probably one of the best musical ensembles that I've ever had at any age level. But more importantly, just one of the best learning experiences and cultures of learning that I had ever had. It got to the point where I had to shut my lights off in my classroom, especially at lunch before school, mostly so that I could eat something. Because kids just wanted to come in, they wanted to practice, they wanted to play, they wanted to talk, they wanted to be a part of it. And it just blew up. It got to a spot where the second time I did it, I'd have to have auditions. And then now I have more people wanting to be in the club that I have instruments. And it was more popular than many of the sports. And it became a huge thing for us to play inside of school, outside of school. One of the parents said, hey, we need uniforms now. And we did these gray tie-dye shirts. I'll take a picture. I still have one 20 years later. Another parent who was a professional musician, banjoist, Tim Wiedenkeller. If you're out there, I so greatly appreciate everything that you showed me and taught me about not just music, but just about culture and sharing. Greatly appreciate you. And he brought in his recording equipment, and we did 2 albums on what was known as the CD at that time. We recorded those, all live takes basically, with the kids during our rehearsals. Such a great experience for me, for the students, for the families, for the community. So this becomes the backdrop for this first question of how do we, in fact, build a high-performance culture of learning that is high engagement and happy. And in Daniel Coyle's book on the talent code, that he relates also in this section to neuroscience, there's this part called ignition. And what ignition refers to is there must be some sort of motivational catalyst. There must be something at a time that sets the brain in motion. He describes it in neuroscience as myelin. Myelin is the sheath that covers your neurons that is built. And the more myelin that you have over the neuron, the more likely that that neuron gets strengthened and continues. Think of it like a pipeline, right? So there has to be these signals that happen during this period before the actual learning takes place. And there's multiple ways that you can do this in the educational format. And in many, business cultures, this is that period of time where, how do you set the tone? And at this particular time in the Marimba ensemble, the tone was simply by saying, hey, how was your day today? How'd that game go last week? Saw you a little down the other day. What's going on? And this became a safe place for students to just build a relationship and a community and environment with them. Nothing to do with music. It had everything to do with establishing a safe place, establishing a learning environment, just having that time. Obviously, this was a club, right? So I, quote, had that time. But we should always make that time, no matter what area we're in, whether it's academic, non-academic, business meetings, etc. Take the time to do a little quick check-in. Turn that key. Get the ignition going. The next step, and another concept that was brought up in the book, is the concept of master coaching. And master coaching is a reality. It's the elephant in the room. Master coaching is, in order to get to a truly high-level place, there must be a master coach in that space, right? So let's use chess. If the person running the chess club is not a highly rated player themselves, then there's going to be a ceiling. There's only going to be a certain level that you can get to. On the other hand, just because you're an expert doesn't mean you're a master coach. So you could be a grandmaster, but you can't tolerate kids for more than 10 minutes, much less handle a group of 32, right? Which is the same as I'm an expert in geopolitics, and I'm a university professor, and just because you can talk for 7 hours doesn't mean that anybody's learning anything. Master coaching is required, where you put that nexus of understanding how to lead group dynamics, and then also your content. So I used to use this concept called the one thing, and the one thing was used so that the learning could flow. And I mentioned this before in my previous episode. I love the term flow. I'll probably keep using it. But in a highly performing learning environment, there needs to be a flow. And one of the biggest detractors to the flow is the word no, curiously rhyming with flow. And if you say no too many times, you're not a master coach. What you're doing is you're stopping the learning process continuously. No, that's incorrect. Oh, that's wrong. No, that's not it. What you're doing even from a brain perspective, right? The neuron is stopping. I mean, you're stopping the flow. You're stopping the learning process. You're doing it for the attempt to make a correction, which is understandable. But what needs to happen is that those mistakes need to continue, and making a mistake is fine. What needs to happen is, what can you do to reduce the amount of mistakes or to correct the error? So the concept of the one thing was pretty simple. You would say to the group, you're hearing what's going on, or you're seeing what's going on, or I know some of you are frustrated. I want you to look at a specific passage. So from spot A to spot B, I want you to identify one thing that you can correct. I'm going to give you 7 to 10 minutes to do so. It could be 5 to 7 minutes, whatever your time frame is. That allows the learner and the brain to choose where they're going to be strengthening their myelin on their neurons, so to speak, right? And it allows them to fix literally that one thing. If you could ever hear what math sounds like in the 24 desks, and you could actually be inside all of those kids' heads, it would be chaos, right? Some kids thinking about lunch, some kids thinking about their new boyfriend or girlfriend. Somebody else is really frustrated. Somebody's completely shut off. I bet you could do the same thing in a boardroom. in a musical context, that's all live. Like it's literally out there for everybody to detect what's going on. And your idea isn't to stop, it's to fix the one thing. Because if you have 20 people that fix one thing in 5 to 7 minutes, you've just fixed 20 things. And so that's a great strategy, I believe, for coaching, especially in group learning environments. And that brings us to the next section, which is deep practice. And deep practice, if we continue on this thought, you're developing learning loops. It's a great term, right? Learning loops, where you're repeating an activity, but not ad nauseum. It's not just for the sake of doing it. It's very intentional, and you're letting the learner react to what they're doing well, what they need to adjust. It's like real-time monitoring, and you're prioritizing progress instead of actual learning objectives. This is the problem with certain types of assessments, right? You're really looking for prioritizing skill building over time more than anything else. And that deep practice, it takes a long time. It's not like, as mentioned in the book, it's not like Brazilian football culture happened in one semester, right? Or somebody in the Renaissance in Italy just, became a sculptor overnight, for example. A lot of those things take time. They're very intentional. You need the ignition, you need the master coaching, and you need patience. And I think this is wise. We're in a time period where everything is so immediate still, right? And while there are short, immediate spikes of dopamine that we can all hit and have achievements happen, sure, there's checkpoints. Let's celebrate those checkpoints. But the deep practice over time is what really solidifies a culture of learning, a tradition, a legacy, etc. Or else you just get periodic one-offs, or you get the classic in one ear, out the other ear, and that's why you can't remember what you learned in 7th grade in Class A, but you may remember everything about Class B, and not just facts, but skills, social dynamics, maybe visuals that come in, right? That's deep learning in your brain. And that's what we're looking for. We're looking for things to be deeply rooted in your neurons with very thick myelin surrounding those. And worth definitely investigating if you're interested in that. And as a side note, 9 to 11-year-old brains, for those of you who have been there, it's amazing. It's just, there are no limits. Let's just say that. The last piece that I'd like to touch upon in relating the Marimba Ensemble and Daniel Coyle when it comes to how to create high-performing, long-lasting areas of extreme human endeavor, right? Which is, there's the word talent, which overlaps with the word intelligence, which really is the brain processing information, is establishing purpose. There must be a purpose attached to it, and there's so many ways that you can do it. Meeting your KPIs, I guess, is one way of establishing purpose. Or in an educational setting, having, quote, good grades is a type of purpose. It doesn't really go along with master coaching, deep practice. What does go along with it, it would be, in local pop culture, would be Ted Lasso. Amazing. And his sign, believe, right? Over a television show about footballers from a guy that's not really a football guy. The purpose was not to win the Champions League. The purpose was to believe. And the people and the dynamics that were around that. And they did get better, and then they got worse, and then they got better. But establishing purpose, like the believe sign in Ted Lasso, is, in my case, in the Marimba Ensembles, making music collaboratively, sharing passion with each other, and being excited about something, anything, and demonstrating that to other people. And that's a deep sense of purpose that people will not forget, likely for the rest of their lives. So for those of you incredible kids who are no longer kids, I guess my math tells me you're probably in your early 30s, right? If you're out there on that, you have no idea how much I appreciate that time that I spent with you. I'm sure you feel the same and would love to hear about that. And guaranteed, for those of us who have gone through these types of experiences, you can click back in your brain and remember it was like yesterday. Likely these early 30-year-olds, if I all brought you into a workshop, seminar, or conference situation, I bet it would take us about an hour to learn or relearn some of the songs that we played, because it was so deeply ingrained in your brain. Somewhere in there, those neuron pathways and myelin are still there. And I'm so grateful for all of you for being part of that with me. So I guess there's the wrap up. There's the hike. I got to go find my mother. What do you think? How will you bring these lessons to your next big initiative? What are your ways of building healthy cultures of learning, of engagement, professional practice? Have you also had experiences with just never underestimating how the brain can work? And don't have fear in BSing your way through something. Don't worry about the imposter syndrome. Just take one step forward, do the Ted Lasso and believe. And if you're really highly passionate enough about it, that is going to almost always outdo just what would be traditionally conceived as just, quote, natural talent or natural intelligence. It's a combination of many factors. And until the next hike, enjoy. Now, for those of you who made it this far and are interested in, we'll call it the B-rolls, if you would like to hear a couple minutes of amazing glacier river coming down from volcanoes, I'm going to record some of that audio here for you and some of these sounds that are amazing. And also, don't remember, there is the Master Mixtape playlist of these incredible students to also listen to.